Hi everyone, thanks so much for tuning in today to watch our Through the Heart of Japan webinar. My name is Gaby and I work in the sales team, and I will be hosting today's webinar with Rachel, who is our fantastic product executive who leads this voyage, and I'll introduce her shortly. Before we start, I would just like everyone to know we are recording today's webinar, and a recorded version will be sent out after today's session as well. So now let's get started and discover the unique and cultural landscapes of Japan with Coral Expeditions on this fantastic 14-night voyage through the heart of Japan from Tokyo to Fukuoka or vice versa. Now, for those of you that are new to Coral Expeditions, we have our passionate expedition leaders that are on board our voyages. They take our guests on every excursion, and we don't hand over to land-based tour companies. We work together with the local experts on the ground. So we focus more time ashore with 2 excursions daily wherever possible. Now, the shore excursions generally have 2 options. Depending on where we are visiting, it can vary in activity. There is always an option though for everybody. The expedition team will do a daily briefing and they'll give you an overview for what's on the agenda for the following day. And this is a great opportunity to talk with the team, and you can ask any questions that you might have about the next day's activities. So on our excursions, as I mentioned, we do have an option for everyone. However, we do require a reasonable level of mobility, and you must be able to walk unassisted on a moving vessel and on excursions. So it is a requirement as well that you are able to safely walk up and down the stairs on our ships also. Now, if you're unsure if you reach the requirements, please contact our friendly reservations team. They will be happy to have a chat with you about the mobility requirements. And throughout the voyage, there'll be a range of lectures held in the Bridge Deck Lounge, which will give you an in-depth insight into the places that you're visiting. So the lectures are hosted by our guest lecturers who are hand-selected based on the destination, and they are the experts on those regions. The guest lecturers won't just host the lectures, they will also come along on all the excursions with you, and they'll even wine and dine with you over mealtime as well. And that just gives you the opportunity to pick their brains even further and learn about all things Japan. Now, they are the experts on the regions we visit, and they just love to share their knowledge with our guests on board and educate and immerse you in the cultural and natural environments that we are lucky enough to visit. And this is a big part of what expedition cruising really is. And then on board our vessels, we do encourage a natural Australian style service and an open interaction between our guests and our crew. So being 100% Australian owned and operated with all our crew on board, either from Australia and New Zealand, we definitely provide some great banter and warm Australian hospitality. Now, we do encourage our guests as well to explore the full workings of the ship. So we have an open bridge policy. You can go up and see the captain, engine room tours, and we also have an open galley window as well. So if you want to, you can have a chat with our talented chefs on board. The crew do a fantastic job. They really do. And they provide an unforgettable experience on board, which reflects in our customer feedback. So we do use a platform called Trust You, and we have an average of 4.7 out of 5 stars across all of our voyages. And that's a big shout out to our team on board. Now for the exciting part, and I know I'm really looking forward to this section of the webinar. I would like to introduce you to our guest speaker today, the amazing Rachel, who has created our Japan series and is an absolute expert on all things Japan. So Rach, over to you. I'll get you to start with a bit of a brief intro about yourself and how you fell in love with Japan before we discover this amazing itinerary.
Amazing. Thank you, Gaby. So hello, everyone. Konnichiwa. My name is Rachel, as Gabby's mentioned, and I work in the product development team here at Coral. So we're sort of the behind the scenes forces, working very closely with your onboard expedition team to deliver an amazing experience for you all. A bit about me, I have had the pleasure of living in Japan. I lived in Osaka, so that's where that photo is taken, and have been to Japan numerous times since then. It's an amazing country, incredible culture, amazing people, and I'm really excited to share the highlights of this place with you all. So before I dive into the sort of day-by-day destinations, I did want to mention that this is a slightly different trip to some of our other coral voyages that you may have been on before. I like to refer to our Japan series as a cultural journey because that's what it is. You're really immersing yourself in the Japan's society, how things work, but also learning about how differently this country works compared to places like Australia. So, as well as your expert expedition team and guest lecturers, you'll also have local guides that will join you on board the ship for the duration of your voyage. So, they all work together to really highlight how special this country is. And having native Japanese speakers also just adds another extra dimension there with all of the learning and discovery you're about to undertake. So without further ado, we'll start having a look at our itinerary. So this is the Through the Heart of Japan voyage. And as Gaby has mentioned, it does run Tokyo, Fukuoka, and as well as being in reverse. So no matter which option you choose, you will get to visit all of these places. It might just be backwards. But today I'm going to talk as if we're going from Tokyo to Fukuoka. So starting our amazing journey, we head off to Shimizu. Shimizu is a brilliant place whether you're starting or ending your voyage because there's very few places in the world where you can sail into a beautiful harbour, a beautiful bay, and have a mountain like Mount Fuji looming over you. Shimizu is in the Shizuoka prefecture, which lies on the historic Tokaido Road. So this was a road that originally connected Tokyo with Kyoto, back when Kyoto was the capital of the country. So it's very historic and lots of inns and waypoints along the way. No matter if you're seeing Mount Fuji for the first time or the 100th time or the 1000th time, it is an incredibly powerful image that has inspired generations of poets, artists, worshippers, literary giants. So you're actually going to delve behind the scenes of sort of the myth, the Fuji myth, as I might say, at the Fuji World Heritage Centre, which is one of the stops on your day trip. It really helps to illustrate the importance of Fujisan to the Japanese people and why it's so revered. Also, it offers a great viewpoint. So if it's a little bit cloudy when you arrive into Shimizu in the morning, hopefully that will be an opportunity for you to get some good photos. Speaking of geology and mountains, Shimizu's location is on quite rich volcanic soil and it's a very temperate climate. So it actually creates great conditions for growing tea, which you might have heard of. So you'll get to go behind the scenes at a local tea plantation and discover how tea is grown and produced in Japan and even how they grade it depending on quality. It's really fascinating. And of course, you'll get to try some local samples. Your next stop will be Shingu, which is one of my favorite destinations on this voyage. Shingu is on the Kii Peninsula, and you can feel how magical and spiritual it is pretty much the minute you step off the ship. Here, the focus of our day is to explore the Kumano Kodo. This is an ancient pilgrimage. It's actually a network of trails that crisscross the peninsula. And it's over 1,000 years old. So you'll be standing in the footsteps of monks, of priests, of emperors who've all walked the trails before you. And your excursions cover similar content, just depending on your fitness and how much walking you like to do. So the first option is you actually get to hike a section of the pilgrimage trail called the Diamond Zaka Stairs. It's around 700 stairs from the valley floor to the top, and you'll hike up to this amazing pagoda with the waterfalls in the background. It is a bit of effort, but of course your expedition team and guides will be on hand to provide support if needed. The other option for the day is you get to visit two of the most special shrines on the network of trails, and you'll do that via road and explore the shrines and temples with your local guides who will be able to explain the importance of them. Also break down a little bit about Japan's spirituality and religions. You may or may not know, but there's two major religions in Japan, which is Shintoism and Buddhism. And Kumano Kodo is really interesting because it actually combines both religions in many places. So it's a great day out. Our next stop on our itinerary is an island called Tokushima, actually a city called Tokushima on the island of Shikoku. Here, it's another optional walk that you can undertake, and it's walking between the first and second temples on another pilgrimage trail called the Shikoku Henro. This is a network of 88 Buddhist temples that circumnavigate the island of Shikoku, and it tells the story about how Kobodashi helped to grow Buddhism throughout Japan. So a really interesting context between the day before in Shingu and here in Tokushima. The other highlight of the day is a sake tasting experience, which is, of course, Japan's famous spirit. And here you'll get to learn about how the spirit is distilled, different flavors, tasting notes, and see where it's produced. Everyone has a great time here at the sake tasting, so much so that when you get back to your ship in the evening, you'll be greeted by awa dancers and taiko drummers. So it's a bit of a festival. Everyone's had a few drinks, you all get to dance, join in, learn how to do some taiko drumming. It's a brilliant day and everyone's pretty tired by the end of it. So after a restful night's sleep, I hope, you'll actually awake in the port of Kobe. So you might have heard of Kobe before. It's quite famous for its beef. But for us, it's actually an excellent staging post for the day because here you'll be given two options for your excursions. The first being you can take a day trip to Kyoto, which is not far away. And in Kyoto, you'll discover this ancient capital, what Japan would have been like before modernization, and visit some highlights, including one of my favorites, Ginkakuji Pavilion, which is this beautiful gold pavilion you can see in the photo. For lunch, it is off to the local markets where you'll be given some lunch money, and your expedition team and local guides will explain where you can go and buy some lunch, find something to eat. For those of you who enjoy shopping, there's some great souvenir opportunities there to purchase some local Kyoto sweets or matcha tea or goodies for your family. The other option for your day trip is to head to Osaka, which is also nearby. Osaka, if you love seafood, this is the day trip you want to go on. Again, you get to visit a local market here, but Osaka is sort of known as the seafood capital of Japan. Everything's really fresh, very, very tasty. You don't have to have raw seafood if you don't like. There are cooked options and, of course, plenty of other meals too if you're not seafood inclined. Similar concept here, you'll get your lunch money and the on-ground team will show you where to go and eat. But in addition to the market, you'll get to explore the really interesting mixture that Osaka has. It's referred to as the little brother of Tokyo. So it is a very, very large city, enormous by our standards in Australia. But the area where the markets are, called Dontonburi, is still quite traditional. So it's a very interesting mixture of old and new, which makes for a great day. And that will be your day in Kobe. Next, we set off for an area called the Seto Inland Sea, and essentially it's the sea between the major islands in Japan. And we'll be calling into quite a small little island called Shodoshima. Shodoshima roughly translates to small bean island because it looks like a little bean on the map. Also famous because it is where a lot of the soy sauce production takes place in Japan. So here you're going to go behind the scenes and learn all about how this condiment is made and how important it is in Japanese and the wider Asian cuisines. Another really fun part of the day is the central photo here, and you get to go and learn how to split homemade noodles and learn about why it needs to be done, how delicate it is, and it's a really good laugh. It's a great day. We then have an opportunity to stretch our legs again by visiting Kankaike Gorge, which is a really interesting geological formation on the island. And here you can go for a hike. It's about an hour or so uphill to get to the viewpoints, or you can take a really neat cable car that will run up the mountainside, and everyone meets at the top for a really incredible views across the island. Following morning, when you wake up, you'll open up your windows on board and you will hopefully see an island nearby. And this will be the island of Miyajima, which is one of the most sacred in Japan. It's often referred to as the island of the gods because of the importance of the temples and shrines there. We have the benefit of getting over and exploring the island before all of the tourists descend for the day. So it really feels like you have the place to yourself. Amazing photo opportunities if you're into your photography. Many of you might have seen photos of Miyajima before because of the famous Torii Gate, which is in the center photo there. And depending on the tide, it looks like it's actually floating on the ocean if the tide is up. But aside from the temples and shrines, there's little market area, cobblestone streets. It's very authentically Japan. And of course, the friendly deer who sometimes are a little too friendly and might try and have a nibble of your maps. In the afternoon, the vessel will relocate over to Hiroshima, where you'll spend the afternoon in the Peace Park and Museum area. So essentially, this was as close as you could get to ground zero when the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima. And you're going to learn about, obviously, what happened post the bombing and how Hiroshima has rebranded itself and is working towards universal peace. So there is a museum here that you can visit. It is quite confronting. I think it's still a really interesting and important visit. But it's not a compulsory one if you choose to skip that. You will get to go and see the Children's Memorial, and prior to your arrival in Hiroshima, your onboard guides will actually show you how to make some origami paper cranes. While this is happening, you'll learn about the story of atomic bomb victim Sadako and her 1,000 paper cranes. It's a really touching story. The idea is that you craft 1,000 cranes in memory of the victims of the bombing, and then these are left at the memorial. So when you get to the memorial, you'll see lots of groups of people leaving their cranes, school kids, school groups. It's a really touching and moving afternoon. After a little while, obviously there's a lot of cranes on the monument. The government will come along and clear them up, and the paper is actually recycled into notebooks, paper gifts, souvenirs. So it's a nice sort of circle of rejuvenation. Next up, we have another really big highlight of the trip. And this is visiting the city of Matsuyama, which is back on Shikoku Island. This time it's on the northwestern point. This is a superb day out because you get to tick off two really big, incredible sites in Japan. The first being Matsuyama Castle, which is one of the 12 original standing castles in Japan. You'll get the morning here to go and explore the castle precinct. You can go inside the keep. You can see how some of the rooms have been dressed and what it would have looked like, and learn about the strategic importance of castle building in Japan. If you look really closely, sometimes you can actually even see some graffiti that was left behind by workmen hundreds of years ago, which is a nice touch. The other reason why we stop in Matsuyama is so that you can explore the historic Dogo Onsen precinct. Dogo Onsen holds a very special place in the hearts of Japanese people. It's one of the oldest bathhouses in Japan, over 1,000 years old, though bathing and hot springs in the area date back to about 3,000 years, so it's incredibly historic. It's been featured in countless famous pieces of literature, artwork, and novellas. So it's a very, very important place. And here you've got the option if you'd like to go and try a Japanese onsen. Your local guides and expedition team will explain the etiquette and the practices around it. Otherwise, the area surrounding the precinct, around the onsen, is fantastic for some self-exploration. There's great little shops, cafes, little corner streets that you would normally miss. So it's another amazing day. And then we'll sail over to another little island called Tsushima. Tsushima is quite fascinating because it's referred to as a border island. Its proximity to not only mainland Japan, but South Korea and China means that it's been a staging post over the last several hundred years, and it's a really interesting mixture of cultures and traditions from all three countries. Here, we undertake one of our other fantastic walks that's highly recommended, and you'll actually walk up a mountain called Mount Shimizu through the old castle ruins. And once you get to the top, there's these incredible panorama views of the bay. If you're lucky enough, sometimes you'll see the ship down in the harbour. But your local guides will explain the importance of why this castle was built where it was and how it influenced sort of trade and local commerce around the area. You'll also discover the history of Tsushima's ruling family when you visit the Bansho-in temple. This is also a graveyard, so you'll learn a little bit about the practices and how they might differ from Western approaches. But there's an amazing cobblestone staircase that you can walk up, and it's got these gorgeous stone lanterns as you ascend, and it really feels like you're sort of walking back in time as you're walking up those stairs. Given our proximity to South Korea from Tsushima, it makes sense that we jump over and have a quick look at one of the neighbouring countries there. So we'll visit an island called Jeju. And Jeju is quite unique in that it is part of South Korea, but it does have its own distinct culture and even language. UNESCO has actually protected this language and is in the process of working with local organisations to revive it, which is really interesting. Geologically, this island also has a huge amount happening on it. So we're going to have a look at things from every level possible, starting from the lava tubes that are, again, UNESCO listed. And they're fascinating because you can really see how the island came to be underneath the surface level. Later in the day, you'll have an opportunity to hike up to an extinct volcano caldera, and that's called Sunrise Peak. Even if you don't walk all up the top, there's lots of little lookouts and offshoots on the boardwalk there, so you can really get a bird's eye view of the area and what it might have looked like when there was a volcano still active. And of course, a visit to South Korea is not complete without having some Korean lunch or Korean style meals. It differs throughout the year, so you might have Korean barbecue occasionally, or bibimbap, which is like a rice bowl with vegetables. No matter what we end up doing, it's always delicious and an interesting mixture between the Japanese cuisine that you would have had. We then begin our journey back into Japanese waters, where your next stop will be in a town called Sasebo, which is in the Nagasaki prefecture. If you've not done any souvenir shopping or want to add to your collection, I highly recommend taking the day trip to Arita, which is where you'll learn about porcelain production in Japan. Arita is responsible for some of the finest porcelain and ceramics that you can purchase. They're absolutely beautiful. It's a stunning little town. And there's even a torii gate that's actually decorated with the offcuts of old porcelain, which is really unique to see. Normally they're just red. The alternative option for your excursion is to head to another sake distillery. This one was founded in the 1700s, so it's really historic. It's still got most of its own original warehouses and production buildings. So you'll get to explore those, as well as meeting up with the chief brewer there and learning from the staff about their particular style of sake. We then head to another part of Nagasaki Prefecture, which is very rarely visited by Western tourists, let alone Japanese tourists. And this area is called the Goto Islands. So it's 5 islands. Originally, they were all separate from each other, but now most of them are connected via a bridge. And we'll be spending our next couple of days exploring these islands. The Goto Islands played a really important part in Japan's history and particularly its foreign relations. Your guest lecturers and local expo team will be able to provide some lectures and some really interesting background on these islands. But to summarize briefly for you now, the islands essentially became a refuge for Japanese Christians. And it was because they were being persecuted for their beliefs by the Tokugawa shogunate. So lots happening here historically. You'll get to visit some of these sites and learn more about what happened there with your guest lecturers and expedition team. When you go ashore, we'll do some really lovely walks, and it's quite a strange atmosphere because you've got this sparkling blue ocean, lovely sandy beaches, Christian churches. You could almost feel like you're in a European seaside town somewhere rather than one of the most remote islands in Japan. So it's fascinating. Aside from learning about the Christian culture and the persecution there, you'll also call into an island called Fukuoka, which is at the very, very bottom of the island chain. And here you're going to explore the coastline, which was formed and shaped by volcanic eruptions, and a lot of it's also lava formed. And here we're going to spend some time at a place called Mount Onidake. It's another extinct volcano, although you can't really tell looking at it because it's covered in these lovely, lovely coastal grasses. Here, you've got lots of walking options. You can walk all the way around or just to a viewpoint. But you'll also get to meet some of the locals from Fukuoka who are going to come and show you a special style of kite flying called Baramon kites. So that's in the top right photo here. And you'll learn about the traditions, the colours, and what these kites are used for. Generally, they were used in local festivals, but they're putting on a special performance just for us today, or during your visit, I should say. And you'll get a chance to fly the kites yourself, which is a really nice way to wrap up your journey. And that brings us to the end of our Through the Heart of Japan series.
Thanks, Rach. That was a fantastic overview. And I don't know about anyone else, but you've definitely inspired me to visit Japan. It just has a mix of everything, doesn't it? The food, culture, even the kite flying sounds amazing. So I'll hand back over to you shortly to speak about how the excursions are going to run. I know you touched a bit on that at the beginning, but we'll cover that again. But before I do, I just want to share some information with everybody on our fleet. So we do have 3 ships in our fleet. However, on this voyage in particular, we're going to be using Coral Geographer. So Coral Geographer is only a few years old, so she has lots of modern and comfortable facilities on board. There's a few images you can see up on the screen. But what's very nice is there's no more than 120 passengers on board. So that really allows you that nice intimate experience, and the chance to get to meet everybody on board and know everybody by first name is really lovely. So all the rooms on board are outward facing, with the 2 lower levels having a porthole window or a picture window. And then we have our mid-deck explorer deck balcony staterooms. And then you go up to our beautiful bridge deck suites as well. So all the rooms have a private ensuite, which is quite spacious, and most of the rooms can be set up for twin or queen beds, depending on your requirements. But we do have 1 dining room on each of our ships, and how we set this up is for odd and even numbers. So even if you're a solo traveller, you're always going to have company at meal times and feel very included. We do have a gym on board as well as a promenade deck. So if you're trying to get your steps up while you're on holidays, there's plenty of opportunity to do that. And there's lots of outdoor beautiful alfresco areas on board as well. And you can just soak in all those amazing views that Rachel's just told us all about. And then we are all inclusive. So once you're on board, you basically unpack once and you can just enjoy your expedition. You don't have to worry about what activities you need to book or what restaurant you'd like to dine at. It's all organised for you. So included in our voyages are the daily excursions and activities. As Rachel said, they're led by our expo team and our guest lecturers and the local guides on the ground. All the meals are chef prepared daily. And then we do have wines, beers, and spirits, as well as soft drinks included with lunch and dinner. And then we do have a 24-hour barista-style coffee and tea station on board. And we do have Wi-Fi, which is Starlink, which is also included, standard Wi-Fi, which is enough to connect with friends and family via your messaging apps back home. And what's really beautiful and one of my favorite things that's included is a voyage log and an image collection. So you don't have to try and remember all the names of all the places that you visited. If you manage to hold on to your map and the deers don't take it away. So you'll have the map there, you'll have the voyage log, which basically outlines all of your excursions for every day that you did. And then you get image gallery of all the images that the expedition team and guest lecturers have taken along the way, of all the wildlife and the cultural settings, and even you'll be included in those images as well, and you can use them at your own needs. And then our excursions are run on our Explorer tenders, which is what you can see on the screen. So these tenders have actually been purpose built for our ships and our shore excursions. Now, on this particular voyage, we won't be using the Explorers a great deal as we have access to a lot of the ports and jetties throughout the voyage. However, I just like to cover the Explorers as they are really unique to coral expeditions, and we will be using those a couple of times on this trip. So how they actually operate is on a hydraulic platform. So you just literally walk straight out from the dining room onto the back deck, and then the tenders will be at level with that back deck. So you grab a seat, very comfortable seats with a backrest, and then they'll be lowered down to the water, and then you're off on your adventure in under 15 minutes. So it's very easy. And then on board the tenders, as I said, comfortable seats. They've got the backrest. I know it doesn't look like it, but there is a toilet on board for that remote convenience. Covered roof, so if you run into some hot weather, you've got that nice sun protection. And we do have our guest lecturers giving commentary along the way as well. So there's lots of audio equipment set up. So whether you're at the front or the back, you get fantastic clear commentary along the way. So as I mentioned, we'll use these where possible, depending on the excursion. However, in particular on this voyage, there'll be more land-based experience. And as I mentioned, you'll have access for the ship to pull straight up alongside the ports and jetties. So, Rach, I don't know if you want to add anything more to this, just in particular how this voyage is operating a little bit different to our traditional voyages.
You've pretty much covered the important parts. I would like to just add on, and a reminder to everyone who's thinking of booking, please have a look at the itinerary on the website because we've put a lot of detail on the various day trips and transport methods. But generally, yes, when we're coming into port, the easiest way for us to get you to your next destination would be via a coach transfer. So we do try to limit the amount of time spent on coaches. Obviously, you're in Japan to see the amazing sights and not be in a bus. But there will be land transport there. So we've put some indication of travel times on the website. So please do have a look at them and reach out if you've got any questions. The only other thing I would like to add is sometimes Japan's a little bit tricky and people think, oh, I'm going on a coach. It'll be nice and relaxing. And that is the case. But Japan can be tricky in that there's a lot of stairs and a lot of walking. You'll quite easily pass 10,000 steps a day on a trip like this. And a lot of that's due to the temples being where you're at. There's stairs. Stairs are said to mean that you're closer to enlightenment. And by walking up the stairs, you're overcoming the challenges to obtain enlightenment. So a fun fact there for you, but just something to bear in mind too.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Rachel. All right. So now, unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our webinar today, but I'd just like to thank you, Rachel, so much for your expertise and joining us today to share your passion on Japan and the insights on the tour as well. But this is such an incredible destination, as we've all just heard, and you sure have inspired me. Japan just has so much to offer, and what an incredible place it is. So for those of you that are thinking about making a booking, please keep in mind this will be the last time we'll actually be visiting Japan for some time. So don't miss this opportunity to explore this incredible cultural destination with Coral Expeditions while you still can. So if you have any questions at all, please reach out to our reservations team and they will be happy to answer those. Or if you've got your preferred travel agent, they will also hold all the answers for you as well. So if any of you did join in late today or you just like to rewatch this webinar or send to some friends and family, we will send a recorded version out to everyone that has registered today. But thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. And myself and Rachel, I know we look forward to seeing you on board soon. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.